Welcome to the masterclass. This is the replay. I have a presentation. Let me get that sorted and started for you. All right. The presentation is called Cracking the Code to Shedding Pounds in Menopause. And I have some new content that I'd like to share with you that I know you're going to glean a few tips that will help you lose weight or maintain your weight in menopause, which is such a challenging time. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about. So the first thing we're going to look at is just how to decipher a nutrition label, keeping in mind that nutrition labels are on all foods that have some processing involved in them. And we're going to look at the trick to spotting some high protein foods and some high fiber foods and deciphering other marketing terms. So, the whole idea of food packaging is for the consumer to glean what is in the product, but it's really an opportunity for marketers to sell product. So sometimes what we're trying to figure out is what's a marketing kind of trick and what's actually happening, what's actually going on in that product. So this is probably not unfamiliar to you. You've probably seen these nutrition facts before. This is what you're going to find on all of the nutrition labeling: calories, serving size, nutrients, and percentage of daily value. So let's look at what those are. Calories, of course, is just total energy. And if you add up the fat, the carbs, and the protein, they will add up to the total calories. So keeping in mind that protein has 4 calories per gram. And on this label, it says that this is an imaginary food, by the way, that protein in this product has 5 grams. It's 5 grams of protein. So 5 times 4 is 20. So 20 calories of this product is coming from protein. Carbs have 4 calories per gram and fat has 9 calories per gram. So if you do the math, it's all going to add up to 250 calories for this imaginary product. Now, let's look at the serving size, because this is where marketers will really kind of try and pull the wool over your eyes. An example, I've got an example here, but I'm going to talk specifically about granola, because if you look at granola, you'll say, oh, the calories aren't too bad. Maybe it's 120 calories. And so then you pour yourself a bowl and then you go back to the label and it's like, oh, the 120 calories is for an eighth of a cup. And who eats an eighth of a cup of granola? So a lot of times the marketers will make the product seem more healthy or more calorie wise or more protein rich or fiber rich than it actually is. So let's look at this. Is a protein cookie. I've got another image of it later, but this is an example of, on the front of the package, it says 16 grams of protein, 10 grams of fiber. But then when you look at the actual serving size, the serving size is only half the cookie. So it's actually only 8 grams of protein and 210 calories. And if you were to eat the whole cookie, you're going to get the 16 grams of protein, but you're also going to get 420 grams of 420 calories, which is almost the equivalent of a meal. So serving size is very important to keep an eye on. The next thing is just nutrients, and that is carbs, fat, and protein. Other nutrients you're going to find are fiber, added sugar, and sodium. I will be teaching you how to determine whether protein and fiber, using this nutrition label, if there's a significant amount of protein or fiber in the product. So stay tuned for that. The percentage daily value is a little bit deceiving as well, because it's based on a 2,000 calorie diet. Now, if you're eating 2,000 calorie, a 2,000 calorie diet, then that percentage means something to you. But for most people, it's not going to mean anything, because you might not be, that might not be your maintenance or calorie deficit number of calories that you're going to be eating in a day. So that percentage is meaningless to you. So probably ignore the percentage daily value. Now, the ingredients are often listed by the nutrition label. They are listed in order of quantity. So the ingredient that is in the most quantity is first, leading down to the least quantity. And then you'll often hear on, like, people will be doing posts or reels about, hey, you can't even say that ingredient. You shouldn't be eating it. If you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't consume it. And I just want to say that you probably should just ignore that kind of thinking. Obviously, generally, the less ingredients in a product, the better. For example, broccoli is a one ingredient food, but just because there are multiple ingredients doesn't mean that it's not a healthy food. Some preservatives are quite safe, and they're fine. So don't overthink it. If you'll see, if an ingredient list, as long as your arm, that it's ultra processed and probably not great. But if it doesn't have too many ingredients, but some that you can't pronounce, it's probably going to be fine. It's more of a indication that you're maybe not schooled in some preserving processes, which are quite healthful. So there's far too much demonization of food. So let's try and simplify things. All right, let's get on to spotting high protein foods. And the reason I want to do this is because for many of my clients and many women that I talk to in particular, it can be really difficult to hit your calorie target and hit your protein goal, especially if you're not choosing foods that aren't rich in protein. So the first thing my clients say when we start working together is like, oh my gosh, how do I hit my protein? And you'll notice that there's a lot of, start looking in the supermarket if you haven't already noticed it, that there's a lot of marketing that this is high protein, when in fact it might have lots of other calories from fats and carbs, which we're later going to see. So this is a little trick that I'm going to help, that will help on those foods that aren't apparent. Like if you're having a steak, that's protein. If you're having an egg, no, I don't want to say an egg. That is an exception to the rule that I'm going to talk about. If you're having a piece of fish, that's protein. But there are foods that have combinations of fat and carbs in them as well. And so this trick is going to help you with that. And the other thing I want to say is you don't have to only eat high protein foods. There's a time and a place for all foods in your day, but this is just a trick to spot ones that are higher in protein. So it just teaches you if there's a decent source of protein compared to the other macros, carbs and fat within the food. So first of all, before we get into the protein factor rule, let's talk a little bit about protein and why you even need it. So protein, building blocks, composed of amino acids, 9 essential amino acids, 11 non-essential amino acids. And your body requires complete proteins that contain all 9 essential amino acids, which I have listed in the presentation, and which you'll get the presentation at the end with all these listed. Obviously, you don't need to know them by name, but they're called essential because the body cannot synthesize them on their own. And fun fact is that food source proteins take about 2 hours to digest, and they're all 4 calories per gram. Now, why do you need enough protein daily? I'm always harping on about this. So many benefits. It keeps you fuller longer, so it curbs your hunger. So keeping in that calorie deficit is easier. Helps maintain and build muscle, which is so important as we go into and through menopause, where sarcopenia, muscle wasting, is accelerated. It helps with exercise recovery. It helps with immunity. It helps with oxygenation. So with cardiovascular health. It helps maintain blood sugar balance. So it helps to moderate insulin dumps so that you don't have high blood sugar and then low blood sugar, which would mean, energy crashes, for example. And it helps with bone health, which is also very important because as we reach menopause, the risk of osteoporosis is increased. So how much do you need? Generally speaking, you're going to aim for 0.7 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of desired body weight or your goal weight spread throughout the day. Now, there's not really, it's been determined that there's not really a top end of how much protein is too much, but from a practical standpoint, it can get expensive if you're only eating protein. And there's something called gluconeogenesis. So if you're not getting any carbs and you're really pounding back the protein, some protein can be converted to glucose because glucose is the brain's preferred energy source. So generally speaking, if I say that aiming for 100 grams of protein a day is a good goal for starters. And here's a chart with examples of 25 grams of protein because you want to get about 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. Realistically, if you're going to try and get 100 grams of protein a day, you don't want to sit down to 4 chicken breasts at the end of the day. So, and the benefit of eating protein throughout the day is it's going to moderate your blood sugar so that you don't have those peaks and valleys of energy, and you're going to feel fuller longer throughout the day. So, obviously we're going to want to eat that protein throughout the day. And don't worry about this chart. It's going to be in that document that I can send you later. Now, this is the protein factor rule. It's pretty simple math. I am not a math whiz, and even I can do it. So you're going to look at the protein in grams on the serving, that nutrition label, and you're going to multiply it by 10 to determine the protein factor. And then you're going to take that number and compare it to the total calories. And if the protein factor is equal to or greater than the total calories, it's probably a good source of protein. Now, so much easier when we look at examples. So starting with some not great choices, let's look at McDonald's chicken nuggets. I just grabbed some things off the internet. So calories, this must be probably for one, is 48 and protein is 2.5. So 2.5 times 10 is 25. Total calories is 48. Not a great source of protein. Let's look at almonds because everyone says nuts are a great source of protein. There are 81 calories and 6.5 grams of protein in that serving size. So 6.5 times 10 is 65. 65 is less than 81.5. So again, not a great source of protein. Not to say that it's not a great source of other nutrients. Let's go back to that Lenny and Larry's cookie that I showed you about the serving size. It says it boasts 16 grams of protein. So we're going to look at the serving size, the half cookie serving size, which is 8 grams of protein. 8 times 10 is 80. 80 is much less than 210, so not a great source of protein. There's the fiber count there, and I will teach you the fiber rule coming up. All right, let's look at turkey jerky, which is more likely a great source of protein. The protein in this serving is 13 grams times 10, 130. That protein factor, 130, is much greater than 60. So this is an excellent source of protein. Pretty obvious, but I wanted to show you examples of foods that have other ingredients other than just pure protein so that you could see the difference. Now, here's an example of a food that has a lot of carbs in it, and that's lentils. Because we hear legumes, lentils are a great source of protein. So 18 grams of protein in this 1 cup serving sounds decent, right? But let's see if it's a really great source of protein. 18 times 10 is 180. 180 is less than 230. So it's not a brilliant source of protein. It has protein in it, but it's not your best source of protein. Now, there are times when you want to have carbs and fat and protein in your food choices. For example, you don't want to have just protein before you lift weights or exercise or go for a run or so that, this might be a good time to have lentils. I don't think I could ever have lentils before having a weight workout unless I wanted to toot a lot, but that's just me. Sorry, too much information. But that's an example that, you might want to have, like, you don't need to always just have pure protein. But if you are looking for pure protein, this hack is helpful to determine the percentage of proteins, calories that are coming from proteins and others from fat and carbs. So let's look at eggs, because eggs are a great protein, but they don't really follow the model, because eggs have 6 grams of protein per egg. So the protein factor is 60, but the calories are 70. So it's like, oh man, that's not a great source of protein. But actually, egg is one of the most bioavailable protein. Bioavailability just means that a protein can be used by the body. So some proteins are just better than others. And it's important to eat a wide range because there are those 9 amino acids. So it's always good to shake up the configuration of those 9 essential amino acids. And eggs are, again, one of the most bioavailable. But the message here is that I can't just have 2 eggs and feel like it's only going to be 12 grams of protein. So that's probably not enough for breakfast. Let me talk a little bit more about this before I share how to use eggs effectively. Because here's a chart of bioavailability. Now, whey protein isolate, that has a huge bioavailability. Your body can utilize that very easily if you can tolerate whey. Same with whey concentrate. But whole egg is like top notch for bioavailability. And as you can see, we go down the chart, peanuts or nuts in general would fall lower on the chart. They have a low bioavailability. So your body just can't use that protein as effectively. Beans are kind of at the bottom there. And so even though the eggs are bioavailable, if you want to bump up the protein, just add some egg whites to it. Because when you have a whole egg, you're going to get a lot of fat in that egg as well. And there's nothing wrong with fat. In fact, that egg yolk, where the fat is very healthy for you. So there's nothing wrong with it. But if you want more protein, you just got to add more egg whites to it. So I'm not demonizing egg yolks. I'm just saying that it's hard to meet your calorie target if you're having 6 eggs for breakfast, because you're going to get a ton of fat with it. Now, on that vein of thinking, let's look at another example of black beans and, say, tuna fish. Because black beans, yes, they can be a good source of protein. However, to get 30 grams of protein, you want to get 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. You would need 5 servings of these black beans, which is 400 calories, or you'd need 2.5 servings, because this label has only a quarter cup in the serving size. But to get 30 grams of protein, you only need 120 calories, 125 calories. So it's kind of like you want to spend your calories the most efficiently if you're trying to achieve a calorie deficit to hit that protein goal. Plus, fish has almost double the bioavailability than the beans. So your body is going to use that fish protein more effectively than the black bean protein. And I want to point out that there's absolutely nothing wrong with plant-based sources for protein. But again, I can't reiterate enough that if you're trying to create a calorie deficit, it's just more difficult if you're choosing protein options that have a lot of carbs or fat within that serving. All right, let's move on to spotting high fiber foods. And before we do that, let's talk about what's the buzz about fiber? Well, for menopausal women, there's studies that show it can reduce hot flashes by 20%. So boom, we need more fiber. It can lower cholesterol, lower blood pressure, keeps you fuller longer. So if you're trying to achieve a calorie deficit, if you're eating a lot of fiber, which tends to be lower calorie, you're going to get a double whammy. You're going to get lower calorie food and be filled up. It helps with pooping. We know that. It helps enhance gut health, reduces bloating. It can increase insulin sensitivity. It's interestingly can ease depression and improve your mood over time. It can promote brain health, reduce risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, breast cancer. There's so many benefits. This is also in the handout. There's studies the studies that I've used listed here. A caution about fiber, because yes, it is a superhero, but you don't want to start with too much fiber too soon, because it'll have the opposite effect where elimination is concerned. You want to increase your fiber slowly over time and drink a lot of water so you don't get backed up. How much fiber do you need? You want to aim for 15 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories daily that you eat. More simply, try and get 25 grams of fiber a day. Men, I recommend 35 grams of fiber or more. Don't start with 40 grams of fiber because you're going to not be thanking me. And so a lot of people say, well, how much fiber, like, how do I know how much I'm getting? And I'm going to talk about this later, and same with protein is how much are you getting? You need to start educating yourself by, food logging, just writing things down, checking on MyFitnessPal. Even if you're just logging your protein and kind of foods that you think have fiber in them so that you can aim for those targets. So what's the rule? The fiber 10-to-1 rule, I've called it. For every 10 grams of carbs you eat, you should have at least 1 gram of fiber. So instead of multiplying the protein, you're going to divide the carbs by 10. And if the fiber is at least as large or more, then it's going to meet this standard. So I just see I have it 1 to 10 when it's supposed to be 10-to-1. That's a typo there. All right, let's look at some examples. This makes it easier. Avocados, a superhero fiber, which would be very surprising for most people. Carbs are 6 for the half cups of avocado. Dietary fiber is 5. So 6 grams of carbs divided by 10 is 0.6. Fiber is 5. Wow. Fiber is way over 0.6. So it's an excellent source of fiber. So look at this apple. 25 carbs in the apple divided by 10 is 2.5. Fiber is 4.4. So the fiber is greater than 2.5. Good source of fiber. Let's look at the Fiber One cereal. This is a cereal that I recommend to a lot of my clients who are trying to increase their fiber intake. If you can manage gluten, this is a good choice. This and Bran Buds, but Bran Buds has a bit more sugar. This one has 25 grams of carbs. So divided by 10 is 2.5. But the fiber content is 14. So that's a huge difference. So this is an excellent source of fiber. Let's look at Cheerios, which I think on the label will advertise that it's whole grain and a good source of fiber. Carbs are 14, divided by 10 is 1.4. Fiber is 2. So 2 is greater than 1.4, but it's not like the Fiber One where it's like 2.5 compared to 14. So while this is an okay fiber choice, this is an excellent fiber choice. So the greater that number is, the better. let's look at this granola bar, which boasts whole grain, and it says 16 grams of whole grain per serving, which makes you think, oh, whole grain, that must be a great source of fiber. Well, let's look. 29 carbs divided by 10 is 2.9. Fiber is 2. Not really a great source of fiber. It does have some, but it's for the calories that you're getting. There are better choices of fiber out there. So the take home lesson is really you need to start to read food labels and understand what's in your food, the macros, the fat, the protein, the carbs, the fiber, and try to connect the dots between, oh, I ate this, I felt this way, and using the protein and fiber rules to make healthier choices and spend your calories and money more wisely. So you can actually save money by buying more healthful food, by understanding food labels more effectively. Now, I want to talk a little bit about other tricky marketing language because, as I said, marketers are there not to look after your health. They're there to sell product. So the language, the labeling can be very deceiving. So here are 14 common food package claims, and it's based on serving size. And I got this from the Mayo Clinic. So let's go. Calorie-free means less than 5 calories. Fat or sugar-free is less than half a gram of fat or sugar per serving. Gluten-free, no gluten, free of gluten, without gluten just means less than 20 parts per million of gluten. So my celiac people, you will understand that more than me. When it says a good source of, it means it provides 10% of the daily value of a certain vitamin or nutrient. But remember, that percentage of daily value is probably irrelevant because unless you are specifically eating 2,000 calories a day. Healthy, sometimes it'll just say healthy. So it could mean any of these claims like low fat, low saturated fat, less than a certain amount of sodium or cholesterol, at least 10% of a daily value of certain things. But again, the daily value is a little bit irrelevant because it might not be the daily value or percentage of what you require. So that can be, a little bit deceptive. High fiber is 5 or more grams of fiber, but it might not be high fiber compared to the amount of carbs that you're intaking. So using the fiber 10-to-1 rule is going to be helpful. When it says high in protein, high in fiber, whatever, it means 20% or more of the daily value of a specified nutrient. Again, the percentage daily value could be irrelevant. So you can see how a lot of these terms are a little bit irrelevant. Light, 1/3 fewer calories than the usual food, or half the fat of the usual food. Low calorie, less than 40 calories. Low cholesterol, low sodium. You can see how these are, they do have some guidelines to them. Natural, no artificial or synthetic ingredients. Organic or reduced, less than 25% of a specified nutrient or calories than the usual product. So a lot of times this marketing language is just, it's not helpful. The best way to determine if a food is healthy or healthy for you and your needs is to go to that nutrient label. Now, what's next? We've got this information. What are we going to do with it? My strongest recommendation is to start to food log and beware of your own nutritional intake. You can do this with a free account on MyFitnessPal. You don't buy. I love MyFitnessPal, but you don't need to pay for a paid account. And just start logging what you're currently eating. You don't need to change everything. There's a natural inclination to increase quality of food And if you promise yourself you're going to log what you eat, you're less likely, if you log one cookie, you're less likely to eat the whole bag. But you don't even have to log everything. You might even just start logging the protein and fiber rich foods and use the protein rule and the fiber rule to help you make some choices. So educating yourself on what you're currently eating, there is so much value in that, but it'll only get you so far. And so support might be in order. And so first step is start to look at what you're eating. Second step is potentially get some support. And if you want to work together, I can be encouraging by saying weight loss is entirely possible, even in menopause. Amanda, these are kind of screenshots of some successes of my current clients. This first one, she didn't lose weight for about 4 months, but by about 3 months, even though her weight went up 4 pounds, she had to buy smaller pants. And then once she reached a certain point, weight just started to slowly come off. Now, she was very consistent with her habits, which was very helpful. And then I remember this one in particular, but I forget who these clients are. But I want you to notice the zigzags. Weight loss is not linear. Like in this one example here, where the client lost 10 pounds, it looks somewhat linear over time. But when she was weighing in and day out, it was up, it was down, it was up, and it's down. So just, I want you to notice that weight loss is not going to be linear. And, here's this person is down 35 pounds, her joints don't hurt, lots of energy. And this is Maria, who said, I wish I had reached out sooner. Now, Maria was a client, is a client that had exercise dialed in. She even was food logging and was very good at food logging, but she just needed some tweaks and eyes on what she was doing. So small tweaks, and she's down 10 pounds now. And Amy has given me a shout out here because she has also achieved peace of mind and success with getting support. So offers of support could be one-on-one, could be group coaching. I do weekly live and on-demand workouts. I do habit coaching, personal fitness coaching for those that need it, and 6-week challenges, one of which is starting on June 3rd. I also want to point out that exercise is excellent, but lots of you might be exercising. And while it's great to have good choices, and I'd love to help you with that, the real movers of weight loss will be habit and nutrition tweaks. Now, my 6-week summer meltdown is starting on June 3rd. You will get $50 off when you use the coupon code meltdown50. And I'd love to have you. I take a very few number of clients in that challenge because I want to serve you more. Like, I just don't want to take on too many people because I go through food logs twice a week. We have coaching calls. Oh, and I have our Dr. Ardell Piper, OBGYN, coming in for a Q&A, which I'm super excited about as well. Now, if you have any questions, you're just going to reply to this. I feel like the questions that were asked on masterclass, those were for the people on the masterclass. And so I did not record those, but I would love to help you with any questions, whether it's regarding any of the topics we talked about in the masterclass, or if you have any questions about the opportunity to work together, just reply to this email. Let's have a conversation. We can pop on a call. We can sort it out via email. I really feel honored that you've trusted me and the opportunity to share some of this information with you. There's a lot of charlatans out there, and my goal is really to just give you evidence-based information that you can apply It doesn't cost a zillion dollars. I'm not selling supplements. I really want to just educate you so that you feel empowered to reach your goals and feel great in your own skin. Take care.